This is Six Tackles with Gus, with Matthew Thompson and Gus Gould.
This is Six Tackles with Gus. Great to be back as we have a look at round 15. Actually, round 15? Where's the season gone so far? On the show today, Tom Trbojevic to play for Manly this week in an effort to retain his New South Wales place for Origin 2. Gus will give us a Six Tackles mid-season report card of sorts. Heaps of Ask Gus questions and, of course, a preview of all the action this weekend. Hello, Gus. Have you got anywhere to go today? Because I've got a 5-page rundown. 5 pages.
It's going to be a long podcast.
Isn't it?
Yes.
We might be going to Origin 2.
How you doing, Matt?
I'm good.
That's good.
I'm good. Good time of year. Footy in full swing, Origin time, and you swing into the European season of sport because we've got cricket starting.
Yes. Test cricket.
World Test Championship, Australia, India.
Yes.
And then the Ashes from next week. And then you throw in Wimbledon's not far away, and then the British Open. And then French Open's on now on Stan.
Big news in the world of golf today.
Oh, what about that? Do you play a role in the negotiations there between the Saudis and the PGA Tour?
Someone will blame me for it.
Any excuse to get your photo in the paper. So what about that? I'm curious about that because they're going to come together, which everyone was hoping would happen. I didn't think they would because of the prize money. They've got to pay millions and millions and millions of dollars more than the PGA Tour pays. I wonder what's going to happen.
Yeah, I'm over it. I don't know how it works.
Oh, you don't
I don't care.
I thought you brought it up.
No, I did,
were
because you mentioned golf, yes.
Well, what I'm happy about is that Cameron Smith's going to be back playing against the best in the world. Don't care. Heaps to talk about, including a bit of Origin, but I'm going to do that later. I'm going to get into the club footy, get Gus warmed up, and then hopefully I'm going to milk him for some Origin gold later. Let's start with our favourite segment.
Yes! No.
That's the rule.
No. Dear.
Try-scoring whiz Alex Johnston equalled Brett Morris in 4th place of most tries in Premiership history at the weekend. He'll finish his career with over 250 of them.
I actually said 2 years ago he'd get better than 240, so that's not far away from 250.
Well, that's a good projection.
His issue is he's going to have to keep wheeling Cody Walker out there.
Yeah.
And while he's playing outside Cody Walker, he'll keep scoring tries. I think there was a year where Alex Johnston was out and Robert Jennings might have scored 20 tries.
He did.
He could easily have nearly broken the record by now if he didn't miss games, but I suppose that's part of your career. Whilst ever he's on the end of a backline that's got Cody Walker in it, and obviously Latrell Mitchell down that left-hand side, he's going to knock up scoring tries. So I can still see him going at 18 or 20 a year for at least another 3 or 4 years. He'll get to 250.
Why has Alex Johnston never rated a mention when it comes to picking Origin teams?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I guess other than his try-scoring efforts, I suppose they're looking for players with high energy work rate and yardage out of the backfield and different things, and they probably think, well, you're playing outside Cody Walker, or anyone could do that. I don't think so much. He's a very talented player. He was an emerging fullback as a youngster. He was one of the real marquee young junior fullbacks of his era, and he kept waiting for a run at fullback, and in the end he'd spent so long on the wing he just become a great winger, and I suppose he'll be happy if he breaks Ken Irvine's try-scoring record, which I'm sure he will. God willing, hope he keeps strength, and he's always fit and well. And as I say, the longer he can keep Cody Walker going around, the more tries he's going to score.
I think he's 30 odd short of Ken Irvine, isn't it? So, I mean,
I don't think he's that for. What is he at now? 190? What's
180 something? 181 wasn't on the weekend?
He's
Ken
got
Irvine's
40,
212, isn't he?
He's got 30 odd to go. So.
Well, he'll do that next year, you'd reckon, the way things are going. I
mean, he'll do it in the next couple of years.
It's a 50, that's a 50-year record. There's not too many of them left in the game, so he's on the verge of a very significant slice of history. The Raiders will break the crowd attendance record for a rugby league game at home this weekend. 26,567 for the Raiders-Rabbitohs final of 2019. It's a big weekend in Canberra. They're going to break it, Gus.
All coming out to see Jarrod Croker.
100%.
300th game. Genius, Ricky Stewart. Saved him up for the big one.
I've got a whole segment dedicated to Jarrod Croker and why he did it. But it's going to be a wonderful celebration of a great career in Canberra this weekend. And they're playing the Warriors.
How many does the ground hold down there? As many as it wants, I suppose.
We'll put them on top of the stand if you want.
Yep.
He's scored the most tries he scored against any opposition is the Warriors. Runs into them this weekend.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later. I think the Warriors are a very good chance of winning that game.
Ooh.
Anyway, not that they'll be there to spoil his party. It won't be easy for him.
My word. The Women's State of Origin should be played in conjunction with the NRLW Premiership.
No. I don't understand the question. What do you mean? Oh, at the same time as the NRLW Premiership?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so. I think it was unfair on those girls to throw that Origin at them in the middle of the season the way they did. It was obviously, you can't get away from the fact it was a mistake-riddled affair. And lack of recent football, I think, plays a big part in that. I think the competition stands alone. I think the Origin stands alone. The women's football's here to stay. It's growing. We need to find a better place for it so it has its own presence rather than just fitting it in around our rep football. And, I don't think the sense of timing was right for the girls. It was unfair on them.
It was unfair, wasn't it? You put them onto the biggest stage.
Well,
and they haven't got that hardened club football. And you would say the same about the NRL competition. That if and look, we saw a little bit of that back in 2020, I suppose, when Origin was put at the end of the season. They'd battered their bodies all year through COVID and had to come out and play at that level again.
It was a little bit, when we used to play the Anzac Test before the Origin series was on with the Australian side. It was a little bit similar there, although they'd had some club football under their belt. But I thought it was very unfair. The other girls' competitions that ended some time ago, a lot of those girls hadn't played for 6 weeks, a couple of months, and they were trying their hardest, and the physicality was there, and the desire was there. It was just that the finesse and the skill set wasn't, and it wasn't a very attractive affair, and that's not the fault of the girls. I think it was just the scheduling that didn't help. I'm sure the game is serious about growth in the women's game. It's the fastest growing women's participation sport in the country.
Is that right?
It's here to stay.
Oh, absolutely.
And it needs to have its own place. We need to stop working it in around the NRL season. It's its own season. It's its own brand of football and it's its own content. So broadcasters and the NRL need to get their heads around that and do what's right for the girls.
Okay. The Dragons should give serious consideration to hiring Michael Checker as head coach. Yes! I've been looking forward to asking you this all week.
Yeah, I'm not. Dragons should give serious consideration. I think that's the thing I'm agreeing to. They've got to give serious consideration to whoever it is they appoint for the next job. Serious consideration. They just can't throw up who the media throws up as the latest possible candidate. They've really got to think long and hard about what they need and what they're doing. Doesn't have to be done next week. They're in this position and they can't afford to make a mistake at this time.
Well, I brought Michael Checker up because he's spoken with our colleague Andrew Webster in the Sydney Morning Herald. He's preparing Argentina for a Rugby World Cup. Now, he's the coach of Lebanon in Rugby League as well, which is a remarkable situation. But I wanted to ask you about Checker because you have said repeatedly that the Dragons' issues, sure, they need the right coaching structure, but it goes far beyond that. And I think everybody that's observed what's happening at the Dragons over a number of years would understand that the club is mired in politics at the moment. If there is a bloke who could crash his way through political machinations within the club and tell him to leave the football operation alone, I reckon it would be Michael Checker.
It's an interesting thought.
I mean, and with respect to coaching structure, could he be a figurehead head coach with astute tactical assistants underneath him? And Checker is the one that tries to negotiate this tenuous path for the football team in a club that's not the easiest environment.
Yeah, I don't know enough about Michael Checker personally. I've only met him a couple of times. People that have been involved with him all speak glowingly about his man management skills and his character and his personality and his knowledge. And he's obviously a great rugby coach. And the Lebanon bloke said he was really good with them as well. It's a big ask from a football perspective. But most of the head coaches these days have an abundance of staff. The last 15 years has seen such a growth in your coaching staff, high performance staff, medical staff, special special people that are brought in for just trying to look to get that little bit of an edge with your players and keep them on the field or have them recovering from injury or mental. I've just sat through the Bulldogs obviously looking at a new centre of excellence, and we're at the point now where we're dealing with people who build these all over the world, and architects and designers and concepts, and trying to embrace the culture of your club and all sorts of things. And there is a lot that goes into the design of the centre of excellence and what goes on. They're talking about what happens. They're an AFL team with a sleep consultant.
What?
A sleep consultant.
Wow.
Talks about the colour of the room, or how they get to sleep after, by playing it late at night, and then they go and do their recovery, and they find they still can't sleep till 3 o'clock. And a sleep consultant.
You could use one of them.
Me? I'd drive them batty. They'd give up on me. Sleep's overrated. Yeah, so they go to extraordinary lengths these days. There are that many consultants and experts and things that people bring in, and now the advent of this new high-performance position in clubs, which is becoming more and more prevalent, they can find plenty of people to employ to keep looking for little bits, and they've all got their value. They all do something for the players. The players love it. The mental health of the players, the mental strength of the players, all sorts of things that they're bringing in. So
what you're saying there is that you can...
The head coach is becoming more and more and more a staff manager and a man manager than actually a strategist or a coach.
Yep.
Most of the coaching is done by the assistants, and that's a model that I saw in the US when I visited there 30 years ago. It was one of the things that I came back with. Now, in my time in coaching, it was me and a trainer. Usually me and a part-time trainer, but eventually a trainer. My first full-time trainer was Ronnie Palmer, the great Ronnie Palmer, who left school teaching to come and work full-time with me at the Roosters, and he was the first full-time strength and conditioning coach that I had. But your coaching department now is, you'd have a number of people working full-time in those roles, and another other consultants working in and around them, and wrestle coaches and weights and also speed coaches and all sorts of things, rehabs and body scientists, and there's all sorts of things, and people that are coming in and working with your players all the time. So
the Dragons could the Dragons benefit with having a Michael Checker, someone who is a renowned boss? I mean, it's his way or the highway. Could he sit at the top of their structure and have 3 assistants that deal with the tactical game plan stuff underneath, and he's the one that pulls the strings in terms of the way the football department operates, but not necessarily have input into how the game plan works out?
Well, that's the role of a head coach these days. Some are more hands-on than others. Some coach the attack side of it. Some coach the defence side of it. Some are more hands-on with the players. Others that are just keeping the players happy and looking after them and building relationships and building communication and showing leadership for big decisions. And the role of the head coach is multi-purpose these days, and he also has to deal with boards and sponsors and media and social media and everything else that falls out from different things and members, and so there's a lot of things that the head coach needs to contend with. And Michael Checker is obviously a high-performance coach in his field. I have no doubt that he can handle that part of it. But you're talking about him, the man to walk through what you've described as a political minefield. Now, I don't know about I don't know enough about the Dragons to say it's a political minefield, but
well, maybe dysfunctional should have been there.
Well, performances would indicate that there's something wrong there. I think that the whole thing about the development of future Dragons, the culture of the club and where it's located and who it represents and what its identity is something that every club needs to come to terms with. Every club is still doing that, particularly them who are a merged entity. They have supposedly a presence in the Cogra area, which was their home base as St George Dragons, the Illawarra area, which was the Illawarra Steelers. They come together. They're predominantly down in Wollongong now. That's where their base is. And for long-term sustainable success, you've got to develop your own talent and develop your own culture and understand what it means to be a part of that club. And right at the moment, it just seems to be struggling from struggle to struggle. It's a big job to get the Dragons back into a consistently winning team. The red V alone doesn't do it for you. It's what being a part of that organisation should mean. So, anyone could probably coach the team if that's all they had to do. was coach the team. I'm not sure that coaching the team is just the solution to getting them out of where they are on the. Their roster is too talented to be running last. That's just. I will stand by that. Their current roster is too talented to be running last where they are. And I've said a number of cases they won't run last. Eventually they'll win the games to get out of that position. But for the future standpoint of the club, they've lost this coach. They're trying to get another coach. It's a very important decision. So I'm saying yes to give serious consideration. Whether it's Michael Checker or whoever else applies for it or whoever else they want to target. It's a very, they obviously gave serious consideration to Jason Riles, who gave serious consideration to his future and opted to go in a different direction. So, it's not easy. I've always said, being in a losing football club is a really hard work. It's not a nice place to be when you. But they shouldn't be there. Their roster is better than that at the moment. They shouldn't be under that sort of pressure because they should be winning football games. And they've probably lost 6 or 7 games this year by less than 4 points. I mean, they've been in a lot of them and just haven't got across the line.
Oh, yeah, I suppose, take Michael Checker out of it. Could they benefit from having someone here, and I'm drawing a circle, that deals with all this stuff and insulates the footy team from the rest of it? From the rest of the noise.
100%. Yeah, I've always advocated for that. I've always advocated for that.
All right, Dragons fans, I tried. He stopped short of saying yes. Michael Checker should be the coach.
Well, hey, I don't know enough about it. I'm sure he could do it. I'm sure he could management the football operation.
Yeah.
You could bring in an Eddie Jones. He could manage the football part. Get his team together, get the best defence coach he could, get the best attack coach he could, get the best transition coach, get the best wrestle coach, get the best high performance manager, get the best speed coach. You can go out and get all those people that can do the job.
Yeah.
But then, how do you bring all the parts together and what do you look like as a team and what does it mean to be a Dragon and what does it mean to be a Dragon footballer now into the future and what have you and what are our values and what are our standards and then strategically, are we on point? Is my attack coach doing the right thing? Is my defence coach doing the right thing? Or do I need to step up and send a different message there? Or you've got, and maybe Wayne Bennett's mellowed over the years, but Wayne Bennett has always said to me, I want to be the last voice they hear. I want to be the first voice they hear. I want to be the last voice they hear. In fact, I want to be the only voice they hear.
Okay.
And that's where he was, 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
But he's old-fashioned. He's probably come,
It's changed a little bit, though. I've seen Nathan Fiend talking to them in half-time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Christian Wolf.
Yeah, and he had Jason Demetriou at South, and he's probably, as I said, he's probably mellowed in that respect. I spoke to Craig Bellamy when he first went to the Melbourne Storm. He was everything. He did everything, but now he's learned over the years to delegate, and I think you need to. You need to be able to delegate and trust people, and that's how you develop within your club. And that's, as I said, was the American model that I saw 30 years ago. 30 years ago, where the head coach was actually more like a CEO than actually the coach. He wasn't actually doing the hands-on coaching. He was handling the media and he was handling this and that, and he had his talent scouting department, he had his recruitment department. They had they'd recruit through a draft. He had his special teams people, he had his attack, his offense, his defense. The way the whole centre of excellence was set up was. And that's what I'm going through now with the Bulldogs, and I went through it with the Panthers. And
you told me that. Didn't one of the American teams, didn't all their employees put a submission in what they want the Centre of Excellence to look like at one of the clubs over there?
That came down. Yeah, that came down to the philosophy, the 49ers, the philosophy into building their Centre of Excellence came pretty much from the philosophy of their head high performance manager who had been there for a long time. And I went down. He was really interesting to talk to about the concept of building a team, and it's a philosophy that I've held myself ever since that time. It's been paramount with me in building a team or building a club or just building a performance. Is that what he described was that every position on the field, if I'm going to help an individual player, I look at the position he plays on the field. So in our game, a fullback has a different workspace to a front rower, has a different workspace to a halfback, has a different workspace to a winger. They all have their own workspace, right? And as our game has become more played in lanes and corridors, those workspaces are pretty well defined. Your role within the team is pretty well defined. Your playmakers and your yardage people and your edge players and your outside backs that are finishers, your fullback that becomes a playmaker or the different variety. So I look at his workspace. What's his workspace? I make him fitter, stronger, faster, more skillful and more knowledgeable in that workspace. I help him to play that workspace to the best of his ability. I help him to be the best version of himself, physically, mentally, spiritually, knowledge-wise. Fitter, stronger, faster, more skillful, more knowledgeable in that workspace, all right? What's his role within the team, how important is his role within the team, etc., etc. But the building of a team is then to have that workspace understand, the person who's playing that workspace, understand his impact on other workspaces and understand how their workspace impacts on him. So ultimately, the performance of the team will be decided by how the workspaces interact or how the individuals interact. Therefore, I need to be able to communicate with him. I need to be able to have a relationship with him. He needs to understand my motivation. I need to understand his motivation. We need to be honest. We need to understand the power of the team and how working together is we all achieve more. And then we need to be honest in self-appraisal and be able to critique each other and support each other and not be offended by criticism or that's the relationship part of it, the communication part of it. So the building of a team or a club is understanding how my workspace and the quality of work that I do in my workspace is going to impact on others and how the quality of their work is going to impact on me. So if my career and my job and my success is going to depend on others, and it does in a team environment, I need to have a relationship with them. I need them to understand how important this is to me. I need to understand how important it is to them. And that's what we're talking about, the relationships within the team and the bond within the team. And that comes down to personalities and character and man management and all these other things we talk about. And that goes beyond just the team. That's so if I'm building a club, that goes to your administration, all the people that work in administration, all the people that work in other aspects of the building, all the people that work purely in the mechanics of getting the fields ready and getting the dressing rooms ready and all those sort of things, the dressing room people. You're trying to build a culture within a club, and everyone has their own responsibility. Everyone's job is important. You mightn't think it's a big job, but it's important that your job is done really well and that you're respected for it and that you're loved for it and you love doing your job and you love being a part of the club. And
feedback.
And that's what you're looking for. You're actively seeking feedback, and it comes down to they're the pillars for me: leadership, communication, relationship building, motivation, teamwork, the power of the team, and honesty and self-appraisal. And that's how you constantly keep improving. I gave this lecture yesterday to a group of police from the commands out there at Bankstown and Campsie who came in, and we talked about it yesterday. It's not rocket science. You can read this in a textbook anywhere. I mean, all these things about man management and leadership, et cetera, and that's what you need to do. You need to bring all those sort of things together. It's just not X's and O's on a page to come up with a tricky play to beat, that team. That's the other part of it. I need the people that can do that. But the building of a club, the building of a team, the building of a building, and what happened with the 49ers was they went around to everybody and said, describe your workspace, decide what you need to do your job to the best of your ability, and where does your workspace need to be located so you're dealing with the people that you're dealing with on a daily basis. So they actually designed the whole building around what everyone thought their workspace should look like. So it didn't matter if it was the gardeners, didn't matter if it was the tea lady, didn't matter if it was the receptionist, didn't matter if it was the board of directors, didn't matter if it was the head coach, the high performance coach, the gear steward, all the people that work within your organisation, the medics, the physiotherapies, all the people, and then down to your players and your locker rooms and your gear stewards and all that sort of thing. So what does your space look like for you to do the job to the best of your ability?
Sounds like a dream.
What does it look like? And they all wrote it all down. And he said, "You happy?" I said, "Yeah." And he turned around to the architects. He said, "Build it."
Crikey.
Which they did.
How big is the joint?
Unlimited budget, and they exceeded it. They had an unlimited budget. And they exceeded it.
What would your workspace have, Gus? I'd have a coffee machine.
Yeah.
And I'd have a bed.
Yeah.
And a big television.
Yeah. I just need a table in a coffee shop and my phone, and I'm pretty happy.
Yeah?
I've got an office at home. I don't necessarily have. I built an academy at the Panthers. Didn't put an office in for myself. So.
What?
Well, my job was always going to become redundant. That's the idea of it. But the idea is that my job doesn't exist after a period of time.
Jeez. Fascinating. Very good. There was something else I was
How
going to
did
say.
we get onto that?
I don't know.
Well, because of Michael Checker.
That was good. Michael Checker, Dragons coach, ladies and gentlemen. Congratulations. HIA concussion exemption. Manly say Tom Trbojevic has been cleared of all concussion concerns and his health will not be at risk when he takes to the field on Friday, despite being removed from the Origin opener after suffering a head knock. He was collected high by Tom Flegler, who was sent to the bin. Despite the independent doctor in the bunker ruling Trbojevic was presented with Category 1 symptoms on the night, Coach Anthony Seibold said the star fullback had not suffered concussion. Manly applied for an exemption. It has been granted. Turbo is going to line up on Friday. Now, I think I'm correct in saying that the Bulldogs are also applying for an exemption for Reed Mahoney?
Yeah, so Reed Mahoney left the field. He was subjected to that knee in the head from Suoli'i, went to the HIA and failed the HIA. We've got an 8-day turnaround, the Bulldogs, and the doctor said that he could well qualify for criteria of being able to play in that time based on certain results. He failed his HIA on the day, but presented the next day with no symptoms, passed his protocols immediately there, and he now becomes subject to an independent review on Friday. So they're going to get an independent neurologist. He's had no history of concussions. He's never failed a HIA previously in his career.
Reed Mahoney.
Gee,
that's extraordinary given the way he plays.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, whatever it is, but he is the first, other than Tom, I suppose, now, he was the first player. There is criteria available there to overturn the 11-day turnaround based on certain criteria. And he met all that criteria. In fact, he was the first NRL player this season to qualify for that. He's not out of the woods yet. He's still got to go and see the neurologist on Friday, and that'll be up to the neurologist. But given everything that he's done since the game, there is, that's why they've gone down that road. Now, understand this. With all the stuff around concussion and everything, the clubs are very vigilant on this. The medical staff are very vigilant on this. No one's putting their players at risk, all right? No one. But there has to be some common sense sometimes in who diagnoses, how they diagnose it, and from where do they diagnose these things at different times. It can't be 1,000,000% accurate just looking at a film from across town, on a video replay that without actually examining the patient himself. So
is that not half the problem?
Well, you can call it a problem. You can call it precautionary. That's what it's all about. It's all about being cautious, all right? And I think we all respect that needs to be done. So there will be times where players are either misdiagnosed through that process, or whether that diagnosis was too harsh, given the people that were on the ground examining him in real time, in person at the time. Now, they're not going to fool independent neurologists. Well, all doctors are independent.
Yeah.
That's a stupid term, independent neurologist. All doctors are independent. Neurologists have a very good understanding of this. So we leave it to the experts to do it. You can go and get anyone in a quote to say anything. There are plenty of people out there that'll give you a quote, but I think the common sense thing here is that Manly made the approach. They went through the correct channels. They've gone through the right process, and correctly, Tom is allowed to play. And there needs to be an avenue for that, rather than just a blanket process that rules everybody out.
Does it concern you that Manly say that Tom Trbojevic was not concussed at any stage, and yet he was forced to leave the field in an Origin game and potentially cost New South Wales victory?
Well, I think there's been plenty of examples of that during the course of the year. I think plenty of players are being asked to leave the field that are not concussed or been in a concussed state. That's happening a lot. But to what level is the caution taken? That's the game's position, that it wants to take that cautious approach. Right? So that's what that's the rules. They're the rules that everyone's abiding by. But there has to be a process at some stage to challenge that. If in fact the medical team, who are independent, they're responsible for their diagnosis and for their their knowledge, they say, no, look, he's not showing any signs of concussion. He wasn't concussed, and we think that this has probably been misdiagnosed on this occasion, and then present and prove that to be the case. Tom Trbojevic had to go through proof. Reed Mahoney, as I say, he's been named for Monday. There's no guarantee he'll play yet, because we'll have to go to the neurologist. He'll make the final declaration. But up until this point, Reed has shown absolutely zero symptoms since leaving the field on Sunday. So
given what you said, and I could preempt what you're going to say here, but a lot of people are saying, and this is the scuttlebutt in rugby league, that given that there is an appeal process to this, come big games at the end of the year, clubs are just going to fire in applications for exemptions. You're saying that clubs are wedded to a duty of care and aren't going to be that reckless?
No, everyone has a duty of care. Everyone understands the responsibility there to the player, and the players understand it. The players are pretty mindful of all of this as well. But these things evolve over time. Maybe they've overstepped the mark in the last couple of years because of the publicity around it and everything that's happened, but the avenues are there to appeal and to challenge it. But you have to prove that you're right. You have to prove that there is no risk to the player or added risk to the player if he goes out and competes again within a certain time frame. And you can take a view to other sports with this type of thing as well. So I think we've been extremely cautious. Obviously, the leaders of our game felt that was necessary, but at least they've opened the door to discuss it. And I think over time these regulations will evolve over time.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So Turbo's there, and sort of feel we'll talk a little bit about Origin after we take a break. I sort of feel like he needed to get another game to prove that he's right to go for game 2, and he's going to get that. So he'll be there, and you'll see that game actually on 9 Friday night footy from Four Pines, Brookvale, Manly versus Dolphins. All right, little 6-tackle report card, if you will. I can't believe we're halfway through the season. Can you believe it? I mean, the season never ends for you. Doesn't feel like it was 16 weeks ago when we sat here and started our podcast for the year.
When I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, it feels like the middle of winter. I know that. My bones are telling me it's winter. I'm feeling the cold.
Halfway point of the season, Gus. Who's been your player of the year?
My player of the year? Reece Walsh.
I knew you were going to say that. I reckon I know what your answer to this next question is going to be as well. Coach of the year?
Wayne Bennett.
I knew you'd say that.
Then why'd you ask the question?
Because no one else knew. Well, some people may have guessed.
Mm-hmm.
This is an interesting one. I haven't really got a firm opinion here. Oh, actually, I do. You've already answered earlier in the year. Rookie of the year.
Jacob Preston.
I knew you were going to say that. Moment of the year.
Moment of the year. Moment of the year. Moment of the year. It's really interesting. Defining moment of the year.
Or moment. Best moment.
Best moment. Oh.
I can't remember what happened last week.
I thought Hamaso's try in the Origin was electric. I thought that was really electric.
Yeah.
That particular try there at that moment on that stage, given what Queensland were going through at the time, down to 12 men and the injuries, and New South Wales seemingly having got to the front, appearing as though they had the game under control, and then their greatest fear, the speed of Hamaso, just the way he scored with consummate ease and arrogance was just incredible. That was a moment. One of the more controversial moments was the Raider penalty to beat the Tigers the other day. People are divided on their opinion there as to whether or not that was warranted or too harsh.
What about Tigers 66 points at Leichhardt? That was a good moment.
Well, it was a lot of moments, wasn't it?
There was many moments.
Many moments in that one. The moments is not so easy to think.
Well, that's a good one. You've given us 2. Well, we gave 1 each.
So
do you know what I've noticed?
Yep.
You know your habit of dropping the S off the end of team names? Do you know the entire Wild Water Sports team does it now? You've infiltrated the whole joint. I even heard Andrew Johns doing it the other day. I'm like, oh, he's been gussed.
Has he?
Brace does it every week. I'm starting to do it. I vowed I'd never do it. You've got me.
Someone told me bobbles in the dictionary.
Bobbles in the dictionary. Oh, you get in everyone's head.
Sorry
now,
about that.
Moment of the year, it might be this weekend. Now, we don't do a lot of very good news stories on this podcast. In fact, there's not enough good news stories in the game of rugby league. Gus, do you agree with that?
There's plenty of them. There's plenty of them.
Yeah, but they don't get reported on.
There's plenty of them if you want to look for it.
We need more good news stories.
I got thousands of them.
Jarrod Croker. Now, here's the negative part about the good news story. Everyone was blowing up at Ricky Stewart about resting him last week. Now, if they got beat, it may have been an issue. But maybe people should have thought just how valuable and how important Jarrod Croker is to the Canberra Raiders and the area or the territory of the ACT or the city of Canberra before they blabbed off. Because have a listen to Jarrod Croker's career, which I'm sure will surprise plenty of people. It surprised me when I looked it up this morning. He'll become the 48th player to play 300 games. He'll become the 16th man to play 300 games at one club. He'll be the second Raider to play 300 games exclusively for Canberra. He has the most points, most tries, and most goals for the Canberra Raiders. And this one blew me over. On the weekend, he'll captain Canberra for 163rd time, which is the equal 11th most games ever captained in the history of the sport, alongside Darren Lockyer and Royce Simmons. That is a seriously good career role, Gus. So anyone that doubted Ricky Stewart's decision to allow Croker to play his 300th game at home might not have been aware just how important it is to the club and him personally to play it in Canberra.
Well, it was obviously important to Ricky. So
Yeah.
that's why he made the decision that he did, and he made it with all knowledge and what he thinks this weekend will be, and what he wanted it to be for Jarrod and the club, and all power to him. That's the decision that he made, and he got the good result. He got the win last week, and now they're going to have a very special day, and it is his 300th game. It won't be his 301st game. It'll be his 300th game. He's actually going to be there, so he didn't risk getting injured last week, and they're there. It's going to be a wonderful occasion, and already they've had a couple of events this week down in Canberra, which the social media team has put together nicely, and they're making it a very special week for him, Jarrod Croker. But the occasion and Jarrod Croker alone will not guarantee them a win in that game. There is still a football game to be played. It's you see it a lot that teams tend to lift for these milestone games, and it means a lot. But we've seen some others that have flopped as well. So apart from all the adulation and the ceremony and the celebration of Jarrod Croker's career and the milestone, they've got to keep their minds on the fact that there's a football game to be played and won, and the team they're playing are no slouches. They're a good side who will just fly in under the radar looking to rain on their parade.
I'll just say this. I don't know if you've had much to do with Jarrod Croker. He is one of the good guys of the game.
Lovely bloke.
Really good bloke.
Buys trotters, doesn't he?
He loves his racing.
Yeah.
Trotting, and I think he's in a few gallopers as well.
Yep.
And
I've never heard a bad word about him.
never heard a bad word about him.
No. I'll tell you what he is. I've said this on a number of occasions during his career. He's the best kick chaser I've ever seen. Bombs, grubber kicks. He is the most dangerous and best kick chaser I've ever seen.
Ever seen?
Ever seen.
Wow.
Ever seen. I'm saying that before
I thought
he's
you said
300.
the Hammer was the best in the game.
No, Hammer's good, but this is Jarrod Croker. He's done it 300 times, 299 times.
He's a beauty. Congratulations, Jarrod. I wonder whether Ricky was thinking a bit about making this the focal point of the preparation too. Beat the Tigers, go back home. Jarrod's 300th. We can all get around this and fire up for another win against the Warriors. Do you reckon he was thinking about that?
Sorry, go again.
Do you reckon Ricky in the back of his mind thought, if we can beat the Tigers and I can make it all about Jarrod this week, it'll give the team some extra motivation?
Oh, it could be. Yeah, you want it to be a momentous occasion. I'm sure they'll be there to do it for Jarrod. 100% they will. But it's not the occasion alone that'll carry the day.
Hashtag do it for Jarrod.
Yeah, I've actually coached against a few of these type milestone games or big games and that sort of thing, and it can actually be very effective when you're going into a game, under the radar there, and you can.
Coach against these milestone games. Yeah, right.
Yeah, coaching teams that are celebrating milestones or special occasions or.
How'd you prep them up for a game playing against the milestones?
I'll write me book one day.
Oh, come on!
No.
This is your own podcast.
No.
Why?
No.
Is this trademarked?
No. It's boring.
It's not boring.
It is.
askGus. Harry Martin. Do you see a PNG team in the NRL a reality after Andrew Abdo unveiled the recent plans for expansion?
I think that, and I've said this, and I've been to PNG a number of times, particularly, probably a decade ago in particular, but in the 4 or 5 years over that time, an NRL franchise in PNG would do a lot to change and unify a country. It could be a really special thing for that particular country, NRL is the big sport up there, but there was a long way to go before they could warrant an NRL franchise. And I'd imagine there are people working up hard up there all the time. It's a country of riches. It's a country of great resources. There are, research people and all over the world that are up there at the moment and taking advantage of those great resources. And it's important what that does for the country. And how that country develops itself over a period of time. And an NRL franchise can certainly help with that process. It can help with the education process and bringing the country together. It's, 10 years ago, it was still a country of 800 tribes and 800 different languages, and it was scattered all over the island. And it was, and I remember speaking to the Prime Minister of the day, rugby league he saw as a vital part of bringing that country together, of building Port Moresby into an international city, and having more people, live in that type of environment. It's a place of great contrast, great beauty and great contrast, and still needs a lot of assistance over a period of time. And it's going to be generational change over a number of generations. But
so, are they ready for a team yet?
On the surface, they're much closer to it now than they were a decade ago. I sort of thought a decade ago, I thought 20 years' time, if they started then to come to terms with what they needed to do. But and that might have been a little conservative, but it was certainly talking to them about that at the time. So I haven't been up there now I took a Penrith reserve grade team there for a trial in 2016. And in that team was a young Nathan Cleary, a young James Fisher-Harris, a young Corey Harawira-Naira, and I took Jamie Soward up with them as an NRL player to play with them on that day. And we packed the ground out. They had a new ground up there. Royal Search had built them a new ground in Port Moresby, and they packed it out. It was a wonderful event.
Lovely.
I was always proud that we took that game up there, and I took a team of kids, really talented young team of kids, up to play in that with Jamie Soward, and he got them home. He kicked a couple of goals from the sideline and entertained the crowd, and it was a wonderful day. But in my mind and in my heart, I thought that would be hopefully the start of a long journey for them to one day have an NRL franchise. Whether and what development has gone on since that time, I couldn't really attest to. But it would be a wonderful thing for the country if eventually they had a presence in the NRL. During my time there, sort of consulting to people in Parliament up there at the time, we got them back into the Queensland Cup competition when they first came back in. That time, what year was that they came back into that? You were calling up there, I think, at the time. But that was
saying a decade ago.
Yeah, around about that time. That was another part of it. So getting themselves back in that Queensland Cup competition and competing there on a regular basis and hosting games back in PNG and broadcast, televised, medical was a big thing.
Big logistical exercise.
Yeah, I remember when I took that young team up there, we had helicopters on standby to fly them to Cairns if something serious happened to a player. Because we just wanted to make sure that they were getting the best of medical care and in the safest environment. So there were a number of things that
lot to look at.
Lot to look at.
Yeah.
But visit PNG yourself to see what I'm talking about. And it's. But I think an NRL franchise would be a wonderful thing for them at the appropriate time.
No one loves the game more. Gemmo says, Gus, to what do you attribute the Gold Coast second half fade outs, and how do we fix it? Don't say make the game 40 minutes.
Well, they have no trouble scoring points. They obviously have trouble defending them, don't they? And I
called that game on the radio on the weekend. It was at 13
it seems on this podcast for the last 3 or 4 years, I keep getting the same question, and I keep saying the same thing. Until they start recruiting with a view towards stopping points rather than scoring them, it's hard to see that mindset and that culture changing. Just unfortunately, they're brilliant. I love watching them play. And it's going to be entertaining.
When they're on, yeah.
They're never too far behind, and they're certainly never too far in front because you're a chance of running them down. But once they start the league points, they find it very hard to stop it.
Don't they hit the wall? My God.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a physical thing. I don't even think it's a mental. I just don't know. But certainly when they come out of the dressing rooms to start the game, they're full of energy and they're full of skill and they're full of speed and they can post points. But they'll get it right.
Love to see them win even love to see them go to a half-time break 6-0, or You know, 10-6 or something, not 26-16.
The day will come where they go to a halftime break down 18-0 and win to show that they can do it in the second half. You know, it's it's a process you go through, but at the moment, you know, they're doing the same thing over and over, and it's just their Achilles heel at the moment. They've got the ability to score points against any defence system, but they leak points.
6 tackles trivia. Jarrod Croker, set to play his 300th game, as we know, this week. Only one other player has played 300 games exclusively for the Green Machine. Who is it?
Ooh.
Take a break. Come back with Gus's answer. And a reminder, too, that in addition to 6 Tackles with Gus, the Billy Slater podcast is released every Monday wherever you get your podcasts. Here's a snippet of what Billy had to say this week.
Next question from Mike. He says, Billy, what happened with the extra player on the field on Wednesday? Was it just a mix-up? Seems a bit unfair that you guys were fined for it, considering the extra man was on the sideline with a dislocated shoulder. What happened there from Mike?
Yeah, speaking of me, that was me. That was my fault. Look, Tom Gilbert dislocated his shoulder popped out, and we saw him running horizontal to the field, and he was running off the other side, and so straight away we told Lindsay Collins to get up off the bench and go on the field. Just before he got off, about half a metre before he got off, he stopped and spoke to the trainer. We assumed he went off the field. We took our eyes off him, and we were more focused on the game because they were attacking our try line, and we only had 12 men in the defensive line. So we were rushing Lindsay Collins to get on, thinking that he got off. And then obviously Tom came back on for a few seconds, and you know that's where it all happened. And you know, I think obviously the fine's not great. The situation wasn't great. It was an honest mistake. I think the biggest penalty we got the ball taken off us, and New South Wales got a penalty in attacking our try line. I think they scored off the back of that, so it changed the momentum of the position we put ourselves in. But there's no complaining from us. You know, that was a decision that I made, and I got that one wrong.
So, Gus, Jarrod Croker, is set to play his 300th game for the Raiders. Only one other player has played 300 games exclusive for Canberra. Who is it?
For Canberra, 300 for Canberra.
Yep. He'll be the second to play 300 games, all for one club, the Raiders.
Wow.
Only one other person has done that.
300 for the Raiders.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going back looking at 80s and 90s, am I? 90s, 2000s.
Good question.
Wasn't the other Croker, was it?
It was.
Yeah.
I nearly gave it away. I'm glad I didn't give it away. It's Jason Croker. I called him Jason instead of Jarrod.
Yeah.
Jason Croker.
Jason Croker, yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
2 Canberra blokes, both Croker. Now, I was talking to Murray, one of our producers out here earlier, saying, I think he's from Crookwell, Murray, and Crookwell's full of Crokers. I think they're both from Crookwell. Jason
I thought
and Jarrod. Are they related?
I thought he was an uncle or something.
Is he?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Yeah, he was quite a character, Jason. I call him number 17. He was in one of my Origin teams back in the 90s, and he was number 17. He came off the bench, but he was quite a hit in camp. He was quite a hit. We all call him number 17.
Yes. Sorry. Joey loves Jason Croker. I think they roomed together and got up to a bit of mischief.
He was in that team, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. He was in that team.
Well done, Gus. Yeah. Jason Croker and Jarrod Croker. Origin. I'm going to put it to you this way.
Jason Croker and Brett Mullins were my hall monitors.
Hall monitors?
Hall monitors. You know, they would keep the discipline and make sure everyone was tucked into bed.
Jason Croker and Brett Mullins?
Yeah.
Could you pick 2 worse blokes?
Well, I knew they'd be awake. I didn't want anyone that was going to be distracted by sleep.
Did you ever like pay the concierge or anything to report back on who got through the door when?
No.
No?
No. I was sitting there myself. I was the concierge.
Oh, Gus is still awake. Can you believe it? Right, I'm going to put these Origin questions to you in a different context because I know you get a bit prickly. If you were coaching the opposition, who would you least like your opponents to select?
Winners.
But I'm going to give you some specifics now.
All right, okay.
Gilbert's out, Arrow's out. If you're coaching the Blues again, who would you not want them to pick to replace? Now I've got the candidates here. Capel?
This is a funny way to go through it.
Yeah, well, because you make it hard. You give me nothing.
What?
You give me nothing about Origin, unless it's 2 days out.
Right.
So the candidates are Capel, Kaufusi, Nene, Capel. They're the ones that I've already said Capel twice, sorry. Horsburgh or Hopgood, or anyone else.
I don't want any of them to be available. They're all good players. I'm giving you nothing, am I?
Nothing.
No. That's a stupid question.
All
Who
right.
will I least like?
Well, let me get to the...
Gilbert's out. The medical's not till next week. They've got to get through another round of football yet. None of them might be available. Capel, good player, leader. Nanai, brilliant young player, played Origin last year. He's just back from injury. He's ready there. Kaufusi, wonderful experience. Horsburgh, tough, unrelenting. You know, he could give you some penalties though. He might be. And Hopgood, not quite ready for that level.
Okay. So you're saying Capel?
Capel and Nanai.
Yeah.
I think to me are the best of those.
Kaufusi is still suspended, however, I believe this week. Would he be eligible? I don't think so. I think he's available. They were saying he's available, but would come in without a game.
Yeah.
Anyway, so you're saying Capel and Nene.
Yeah, I think Capel and Nene will be the ones they pick if fit and well.
Okay. Now, you said I'm 100% footy, but you go for Mitchell Moses. Now, I want you to give me your case for and against the big push for Adam Reynolds, Cody Walker, Damien Cook in a new spine with Latrell Mitchell to come in on the left-hand side. If they have to go up there and win, would Queensland? How do you think Queensland would feel if Freddie went for that combination, knowing how potent it is?
Well, it's a good combination. It's failed at Origin level before. Hasn't won a premiership and had a number of occasions to do it. I mean, I don't know how suddenly we throw out the 5'8" and the hooker who played in game one, who both had really good games. I don't know that we need to go to that extent. I mean, I'm not saying that Brad Fittler won't. Brad Fittler was very, very close to picking Cody Walker for game one. And he was very close to picking Cook in game one. Very close to picking both. Now, I'd say he agonised over that decision for some time, but in the end decided to go with the incumbents and Appy's relationship with them and the football that he was playing, and that he wasn't going to cover a hooker from the bench because the previous year he'd gone with Cook and Appy Coruscant in the same side. There's nothing wrong with that combination. You know, I don't know that we need to throw everyone out to get it in. I don't know that, you know, I suppose it's as good as any as we can put out there. It's an important game to win. There's plenty of experience in that group, and they could well get the job done. I'm not bagging it at all.
No.
But I don't know why we've suddenly got, we've lost our halfback. Now we've got to throw them all out. I don't get that. And, anyway.
So you think Moses is as close enough for a like? Is that where you're coming from?
I think Moses is the most likely and close replacement to Cleary and what Cleary provides. Mm-hmm. I think this is just my personal choice. Yeah. This is my personal choice. If I was sitting down and everyone was fit and well, I know Cleary is out. I know what we've gone through in game one. I've analysed the game and where it was won and where it was lost. I know what needs to be improved. I'm anticipating improvement in Queensland in certain aspects of the game. I now know what sort of game I want to play, and I know what's going to bring Appy Coruscant. I know what's going to bring Jerome Luai. I know what we can do to help James Tedesco. I know how we need to get Trebojevic and Latrell if they pick him, or Stephen Crichton in the side. I think that there are a lot of things that need to be done, and I think Mitchell Moses fits that role for me. Mm-hmm. Now, he's a player too that hasn't won anything before. He hasn't won an Origin. He certainly hasn't won a competition. So they're all kind of unproven in that area. But sooner or later they've got to be able to break through. I think had Cleary not come along, Mitchell Moses would have played a lot more Origin football than he's played. Could you just bring?
Could you see Reynolds just being parachuted in by himself?
You could, but I'm going for Mitchell Moses' speed here. I just don't know that Adam Reynolds is Origin speed these days.
Okay.
And I still have question marks over his physical well-being. I think he's carrying injuries a lot of the time, and he's certainly not as fast as he was. What he's giving that young Broncos team is tremendous direction, and they've got, Katoni Staggs, and they've got, Herbie Farnsworth, and they've got Reece Walsh, and he's directing them around the field, and they've got, Payne Haas, and they've got Flegler, and they've got these blokes bashing the ball up in front. He's just in the perfect environment at the moment. And they're not. Other opposition teams are finding it hard to get to Adam Reynolds, where you can't hide in Origin. I just don't know at this stage of his career. He could do it. He might be really confident. It's not what I think; it's what he thinks, and he's sort of put his hand up and said, "Yeah, I'm ready to do it." Can
they do with a bit of direction?
Yeah, they probably could. I'm not saying that he doesn't have qualities that would pick him. I'm just saying what I would do.
Yep.
My preference would be to replace Cleary with Mitchell Moses. I think that's the best like for like, and I think in Mitchell Moses, he's still got that speed, and he's still got that evasion, he's got that short side rush, he's got that very long kicking game.
Yeah.
Very long kicking game, or he's got his short kicking game. I think he could bring them to light. I think he could really get the ball to Luai. Luai, for me, was our most dangerous player in game one, and I think he could gel well with him and get him the ball how he likes to get it, where he likes to get it. I think he can create opportunities around Api Coruscant, around the middle of the field for Tedesco, where he's best chiming in around the field and following playmakers. You saw him tailing up Luke Keary on the weekend. When Luke Keary pokes his nose through, there's Tedesco. It's not up to Tedesco to be setting others up. It's up for people to be setting him up or him to be supporting them. I think there needs a little bit more offload. We need a little bit more offload in our game. We need a little bit more pre-line passing in our game. We need to move the opposition around a little bit more. We need to run them around. We need to turn them around. That was always my terminology. Run them around, turn them around. Run them around, turn them around. Take them to fatigue, take them there and beat them there. Run them around, turn them around. We don't want stoppages. We want the ball in play. We've got to kick long, kick often. When you think you've kicked it too much, kick it again. That's my philosophy on Origin football. Mitchell Moses suits my philosophy. I don't know if it suits Brad Fittler's philosophy or any other coach, and I can see the benefit in that. And you're certainly going to get plenty of votes from South Sydney fans.
They're all over it.
Yeah, all over it. So
they want Lachlan Ilias in the side.
But
I'll tell you else, the Tigers fans want Brooksy.
Yeah, well, they're all playing good. I'm pleased he's made a comeback, Brooksy.
Brooksy, they're going to re-sign him.
Yeah.
It's the greatest comeback since.
They were selling
John Farnham.
They were selling him all over the country weeks ago.
He's back. They want him for another 2 years.
Always been a good player. I've said for years. He's always been a good player.
Brooksy for Origin.
Always liked Luke Brooks. I think he's got a bad rap over the years.
Before I get your tips, can I make a comment? I don't often make editorial comments or opinions on this podcast because my opinion means nothing. I reckon I saw the best dummy half passing performance I've ever seen since watching the game on the weekend. Reece Robson. My God, he's a good player.
He's a very good player.
What about his passing?
Very good player.
It's like firing a bullet the way he passes from
very
dummy half.
He was at the Dragons,
Yeah, I know. Geez, there's a bloke that's ready for Origin if I've ever seen one. He is a player.
Yeah, good player.
Okay, round 15 preview. Thanks to Bluebet. What are you really gambling with? Free and confidential support is available. gamblinghelponline.org.au. The odds we give correct as of 9 a.m. Monday. 07-06-2023. That's the date. Thursday night footy. Scoreboard at 10, it'll get RSI. Titans $1.80. Tigers $2. Seabus Super Stadium on the Gold Coast. Now, the Titans fire up there, don't they?
They do. For 40 minutes.
Yeah. Geez, there are some points here. Might be a shootout.
Fafita's not playing.
No, he's been rested.
Yep.
I've got to get my little team apparatus out. Yep. Oh, AJ Brimson's back.
Right.
Thought young Jaden Campbell went all right at 5'8", actually. Sam Verrills is into the starting team after one game back, and I think it's all pretty much steady as she goes for the Tigers.
Yeah. I don't know. How would you know? Tigers were terrible for 70 minutes last week.
No, what about that?
It was a terrible game. It was a really terrible game. The Raiders were hopping on one leg, leading 18-0, and a couple of those tries from kicks. I suppose it was dewy out there and a little bit cold, but Raiders were just sauntering along, cruising along, no trouble in the world. Sin bin, the whole complexion of the game changed. And
Brooksy with his field goal.
Yeah, he kicked the field goal, and then they had 20 seconds to get the levelling field goal and spent it all time throwing the ball from one side of the field to the other and didn't get their kick away. That was poorly managed. I don't know. I'm going to go Titan to hold on this week.
All right, 6 o'clock Friday. The big occasion in Canberra where Gus says the crowd record will be broken. Jarrod Croker's 300th. As far as team news is concerned, he comes in. Harley Smith-Shield's out of the team, so minor change. Elliot Whitehead is back from a 2-game suspension in the second row. Horsburgh to lock, Tarpane to prop, Saulo to the bench. Now there's a debutant, Ali Leah-Tower, in the centres for the Warriors, replacing Rocco.
Very good young player.
Yeah.
Very good young player. You'll like watching him.
Yep. Okay.
Big, tall, strong kid, runs hard.
They've got just a production line of outside backs. They just keep
Warriors,
bringing them in.
they're coming, mate.
And that's pretty much it. Canberra at home to the Warriors. Johnson going good.
Beware of Warrior.
Mm-hmm.
Just could rain on their parade.
Is that a tip?
Not really. I'm just saying. I think the Warriors could easily rain on their parade. The Raiders were very unimpressive the other night.
Canberra will be winning.
Canberra's winning?
Canberra
You
will be
think the
winning.
Jarrod Croker factor, do you?
Morals.
Yeah.
Manly versus Dolphins, Friday night footy.
That kid you mentioned, Ali Lauatiti.
I wish it was Ali Lauatiti.
Yeah.
It sounds like him, doesn't it?
What's the game?
Yeah?
Yeah.
Now, I've got to get this right. Leah Tower. L-E-I-A.
Yep.
Leah Tower. T-A-U-A. It's not Ali Lauatiti. It's exactly what I thought when I saw his name.
Yep.
All right. Manly Dolphins. Now, Manly have got their best back line for the first time in a long, long time. Turbo's in. Garrick's in the centres. Tui Pilotu's in on the wing. Cherry Evans is there. Schuster's there. And now Wallace and Milford are out. Gilbert's gone for the season. Jeremy Marshall-King, however, is back for the Dolphins. But Manly have a very strong outfit. They've got a few missing in the forwards, but their back line is the strongest one they can put on the park.
Yeah, it's an important one for them. Being at home, it's a game they can't afford to drop. The Dolphins, we know, are competitive everywhere. But I'm tipping Sea Eagle to win there.
Right. Now, this one I'm fascinated by. 3 o'clock Saturday, Jubilee. Dragon versus South Sydney. Dragons were good against the Panthers. Very good. Jack de Bellin's out, though. Ben Murdoch-Masila at lock. Musgrove comes on to the bench. Now, Jack Bird and Blake Laurie are on the extended bench, so one would think they should come in. No Murray, no Arrow, no Latrell.
Is Tom Burgess back?
Nope.
Mm.
Totola, Cook, Sele, Kalamatangi host Shaq Mitchell at lock. The bench, Cartwright, Cheekham, Havili, Saluka, Fafita.
Yeah.
The odds, by the way. $2.85 Dragons, $1.42.
The Red V at Jubilee. I remember I went back in the 60s or 70s, back in the 70s. Me and my schoolmates, we caught the train to Carlton and walked down the hill to Red V at Jubilee for South Sydney versus Dragons.
Oh.
And the crowd was so big, they allowed us to sit on the field. The crowd was allowed to go over the fence and sit on the field.
Wow.
On the field.
Yeah. That would have been a rough household joint back then.
And of course, the full-time siren went and everyone rushed onto the field. But yeah, it was, I remember that day vividly.
They were the days, weren't they?
The Dragon v Rabbit.
The two winningest clubs in rugby league history up against each other.
That was the age where you fell in love with rugby league. Rabbit, too good.
Ooh. I thought you tipped Dragons.
Red V at Jubilee, hard to beat.
I've forgotten to give the odds here thanks to Blue Bet, so I'm going to start at the top. $1.80 Titans, Tigers $2. Raiders $1.55 favourites over the Warriors at $2.45. Gus giving the Warriors a chance to rain on the parade. Manly $1.38, Dolphins $3.05. And this one, $2.85 for the Dragons.
Red V at Jubilee.
To Rabbits.
I think Rabbit will be too good. I think Cody Walker will manufacture something.
Okay. Now, Saturday afternoon, 5:30, there's a Brisbane game. Haven't seen one of these in a long time. Broncos, $1.23 favourites. Newcastle, $4.15.
Another win for the Bronco.
Saturday night footy. Now, round 11, the Panthers beat the Roosters. I wrote the score down here, 48-4. Yet the Roosters are $2.45 favourites and the Panthers are $1.55. That match is at Allianz, of course, and there's no Nathan Cleary with Jack Cogger wearing the number 7 while he has a layoff because of a hamstring injury. Well, firstly, your thoughts on the game?
Panther wins comfortably.
Comfortably. Secondly, your thoughts on Spencer Leniu playing his way into an Origin jersey?
Look, I get it. He kind of doesn't fit the profile for me at Origin because he's primarily a bench player. He's a short-term bench player. I like to pick 80-minute players in the 17, and there's plenty of them available. But he's certainly got impact, and he's playing against his future club. He's actually going to the Roosters next year, and I think he'll give them plenty to think about this week. I thought the Roosters were pretty average on the weekend, and I think Panthers will tear them apart. Okay,
Sunday afternoon, 4:05 p.m. Gee, Nico Hines, if he has a good game here, he merely seals the 7 jersey for the Blues, you'd reckon. Melbourne, $1.55, Sharks, $2.45, Amy Park, the venue. Nothing. Oh, well, Cameron McInnes is on the bench. And Justin Ollins failed the HIA, by the way, last week, so he misses, and Grant Anderson is going to play in the centres for Melbourne.
Storm, what happened there?
What about the Sharks? They should have won 1,000 times over.
Yeah, but they do that.
Yeah.
The Sharks haven't beaten many of the top 8 teams, if they have at all. Have they beaten a top 8 side? I don't think they have.
They've blown a few.
Yeah, both these sides have got question marks coming into this one. Gee whiz.
That's a hard one, isn't it?
Look, you keep going on history. Storm are hard to beat at home. Storm rarely lose 2 in a row. But rarely do they have 45 points scored against them in a game like that the other night.
20 years it's been.
It was a total capitulation. I've never seen that from the Storm. Now, I guess we're all expecting Craig Bellamy to make his point this week and that they won't dare do that again. But whether or not they're capable not to do it again. And Shark, they've got their own demons. And they need to beat a top 8 side. I think I would love to be Shark in this game. I would love to be Shark. That's how I tip it. The one I'd love to be. I'd love to be the Shark.
Why would you love to be the Shark?
I'd love to I'd love to go down there and play Melbourne in Melbourne and take up the challenge of beating them down there. They're just those little challenges you like. Shark.
Okay, Sharkies. And then Monday footy. It's a long weekend.
Yeah, Monday. The King's birthday, not the Queen's birthday. It's funny they had a birthday on the same day.
Yeah, I know.
The King and the Queen.
Wally Lewis and the Queen, eh?
Yeah.
Wally Lewis's birthday weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Bulldogs, I'll get in trouble. It was a joke. Bulldogs, $2.95 and Parramatta, $1.40. Don't know about Dylan Brown yet, and we're waiting about Reed Mahoney. So who are you tipping?
Well, I'm certainly hoping for Bulldogs.
No, for the round, I'm assuming you're tipping the Bulldogs.
I'm tipping Titan. Anything could happen there. Warrior is going to make it very interesting for Raider. I'm tipping Warrior.
You're tipping the Warriors?
I'm tipping Warrior.
Whoa.
I'm tipping Seagull. I'm tipping Rabbit. I'm tipping Bronco. I'm tipping Panther. I think Shark can cause the upset.
And Doggies?
And hopefully on Monday the Doggies put their best foot forward.
Oh, should have won last week. My goodness. That's rugby league. It's a funny game, they tell me.
It's a funny game.
And
funny people.
And the premiers of 2023, I noticed, have got the bye this week. What about you tipping the Cowboys to win the comp? Where's that come from?
I said they can.
No, you didn't. You said they'd win it.
I never said that. I said they can win the comp. I can fly to the moon. It's not going to happen.
You can fly to the moon.
Yeah, I can, but I'm not.
Would be inclined.
Yeah.
That's good fun. Thank you, Gus. It was we got through our 5 pages in about an hour and 45 minutes.
Good on you.
That is 6 Tackles with Gus, thanks to Bluebet. Enjoy the footy across the weekend here on 9, of course, Origin in a couple of weeks' time. Bring it on from Suncorp Stadium, a packed house. Talk to you next week.
What are you really gambling with? For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website